how to replace the front active control engine mount on a 2005 through 2010 Honda Odyssey. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive. I'm going to walk you step by step through that process. Okay, we're going to get started by popping this top engine cover off. You're going to need a flat blade screwdriver, and you're going to turn the clips here and here, quarter turn counterclockwise. Then you grab the corners and pull up. And then towards the back here, we need to pop these little rubber grommets up. So we're going to pull here and here straight up. Motor mount is just below the oil cap right here, down here. And there's going to be two 17mm bolts that we need to remove. So they're going to be here and here. And the way I'm going to get to those is I'm going to use about a 3-foot long extension like this. And then if you don't have this, you can just link up all your extensions together, and then you're going to use a 17mm socket, and you're going to put it on the bolt here. And I'm going to use a breaker bar to break it free. It's going to be quite tight. And then once I get it broke free, then I'll switch it out to a ratchet and ratchet the 2 bolts off. So once you get the 2 bolts off the bracket here, we need to pull the bracket out, but it's going to be held on by a little rubber grommet, and you're going to need to peel the rubber grommet back and off the motor mount. So to get this bracket off the motor mount, we need to peel this rubber bushing back, and you're just going to use your fingers and pull the rubber off. This is the easiest way to get it. So you're going to pull it all the way off. Once you get the rubber portion of it peeled off, then you can pull the metal portion of the bracket out like this. So on the upper and lower radiator hoses here, there's going to be this plastic little clip here that holds the hoses together. So I'm going to pop that off, and what that allows me to do after I get this out is to push the hoses around, maneuver them around, and the clip is going to look like this. Now you just set that aside. Now we can reach our hand down here and grab the rubber portion of the mount and peel it off. It's going to be hooked on the mount, so you're going to peel it off and then pull the whole rubber portion of it out. And when you get it out, it's going to look like this. Next, we need to remove the coil right here to get access to one of the bolts. So we're going to unplug it and then take the Allen screw out and pull the coil out and set aside. Now to get to the remaining bolts, we're going to need a long extension. And I'm going to put a semi-wobble extension on the end of it and a 14mm socket. That way we have a little bit of wobble like this. So I'm using the new motor mount here as a reference, and we need to get this corner bolt here off, and that's why we need the wobble socket to get to it. And then we're going to remove the rest of the other 3 bolts. So I'm using a 3-foot long extension with the semi-wobble and the 14mm to get to that back bolt. It's right down here. So once we get that bolt, you can go ahead and remove the 3 remaining bolts. So I have tried using aftermarket motor mounts in the past, and they don't work out. End up having to redo them over. So I recommend factory parts. So I'll put a link in the description of the video. That way you guys can pick those up without going to the dealer. So this engine mount is what they call an active control engine mount. And it has an electronic valve inside that changes dampening for sport mode versus touring mode. So it has this little electrical connector on it. And what we're going to do is raise the vehicle up and unplug that. So we're going to raise it up, and then we're going to look up in between the subframe here. We're going to follow the wire up, and it's got a little mount right here that's mounted on the subframe. It's green color. We're going to pull that off. This is going to be left of the exhaust or towards the driver's side of the subframe here. Plugged electrical connector. What we're going to do is slide just between the motor mount right here. We're going to slide a thin screwdriver between the crack, and then we're going to reach around the back of the subframe here, and you can put your fingers on the connector and push the little tab down and push the connector off with the screwdriver. You can leave the wire hanging down like this. Put the vehicle back down on the ground. We need to remove this little bracket right here. So we're going to take the 17mm bolt out and then pull the bracket up and set it aside. Now that it's unbolted, we need to unplug the oxygen sensor connector here. So you're going to squeeze the tab and pull it off the bracket. And then once you got it off the bracket, then you'll squeeze the tab and separate the 2 connectors. And this is what the little plastic tab looks like right here. So you're going to squeeze that and pull it. It's going to be mounted onto the bracket right here. So you just pull it off. So now that we got that off, the next step is to remove the aluminum mount here that goes from the engine block and bolts actually to the motor mount. Also, the wire loom is bolted to the mount too. With a 10mm bolt, we'll remove that to get the wire for the O2 sensor off. So after you get the 10mm bolt out, you're just going to let the wiring harness, you're just going to push it over to the side like this and let it stay over there. Next, we're going to need a floor jack and a block of wood, and we're going to roll this under the car and put it on the transmission and jack up the transmission just a little bit to take a little pressure off the engine mount, so that way we can take the bracket off and get the mount out of the car. So we're going to slide it under and put it underneath the transmission. Make sure you don't hit the subframe with the jack, and we're going to use that block of wood to spread the load. Now we can take off the bolt here on the front of the motor mount and bracket. So to get to this 14mm bolt down here, I'm going to use my 18-inch long mountain ratcheting wrench here. This wrench is amazing. You can put tons of torque on it. And if you guys never seen this, I recommend you check it out. I'll leave a link in the description of the video for it. So anyways, we're going to take this bolt and go ahead and remove it. Okay, now that we got the bolt out, the next step is to take the floor jack and jack the engine up about an inch, inch and a half or so to relieve the pressure off the mount. Now the engine mount should be free and be able to move it around. You're not going to be able to get it out just yet. We need to remove this bracket here below. So what we're going to do now is loosen up the 3 mounting bolts to hold this bracket in. And once we get that loose, to accomplish that, we're going to have to slide the motor mount side to side. So you'll take out the top bolt and then the right bolt that's closest to the driver's side. So this will be your setup to get the bracket off. I got a 14mm socket. It's a deep with about a 2-inch extension and a flex head ratchet. So you'll crack this top one here free, and then you'll move the ratchet over to the next bolt, crack it free. Then you'll have to move the motor mount or slide the motor mount over to get to the next bolt. So once you get the top bolt out, and then what you're going to do is move the ratchet over and get the bottom bolt, and then you're going to slide the motor mount over to the right like this. So you'll move it as far as you can to the right, and then you can get to the lower left bolt. So this is probably going to be the toughest bolt on the whole job to get to. So my bolts were extremely tight. So what I did was I took a socket that slid over the handle of the ratchet and an extra long extension and slid it over, and that gave me the extra torque I needed to loosen the bolts. Now that you got the 3 bolts removed, now you can pull the aluminum bracket out like this. And then once you get it out, these are going to be the 3 bolts and how they look inside the car right here. So take those out and then set that aside. Now the mount is almost ready to come out. So when you're pulling the motor mount out, you're going to have to flex the radiator hoses out of the way. We're also going to remove the bolts that hold the prop rod mount and the ground cable off. And then we're going to flip the wiring harness and prop rod out of their way. Now we can push the hoses out of our way and reach your hand in and grab the motor mount and pull the motor mount out. Now that you got the old mount out, we're going to take the new mount here and feed it back into the car. And you want to make sure the electrical connector here is facing towards the driver's side as you feed it downwards into the vehicle. Now that the motor mount is back in the car, we're going to push it over towards the passenger side. Then we're going to take the aluminum bracket and feed it back inside and start the 3 bolts and tighten those down. And when we're doing this, you're going to have to maneuver the motor mount left and right to get to all the bolts again. So now that you got the aluminum bracket with the 3 bolts back in and secure and tight, we're going to line up the motor mount and start all 5 of the bolts. I'm going to leave them all loose until they're all started. To get to the back one and in the back, what I'm going to do is use my long extension here with the semi-wobble and put a piece of paper in the socket, put the bolt in there, and that way I can hold it without the bolt falling out. Then I'll feed it down there and I'll start that bolt by hand. So once you get all the bolts started, then what you can do is you can lower the floor jack. So lower it and pull it out and release the pressure, and then you can go back and tighten up all 5 of the bolts. So now we're going to take the metal bracket that looks like this and reconnect the rubber grommet around it. Once you get it fully resecured around it, it's going to look like this. Now we're going to feed it down. And the side that has the bigger opening faces the engine block. And then once you get it down over the mount, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna demonstrate with this old mount here. Is you're gonna slip the bracket over the mount, and then this rubber grommet's gonna fit over the lip of the mount. Now that the bracket is back on over the mount, you're gonna take the two 17mm nuts and start those and tighten them up. Now that the motor mount is all bolted back in, we can take this wiring harness loom and bracket and put it back into position and take the 14mm bolt and resecure it. Okay, now that you got the bracket and 14mm started and tight, now you can put the prop rod and the ground cable back on and start those two bolts and tighten those up. Next, we're going to resecure the oxygen sensor onto the little bracket here, and then reach down and we're going to plug the oxygen sensor back in and remount the 10mm bolt that went on the side that held the wire to the aluminum bracket. Once you get the bracket and bolt and wire loom restarted, everything should look like this. Now we're going to reinstall this little bracket that went around the hoses that held them in place. Now you can take the coil and feed it back down into the valve cover like this. Plug the electrical connector back in and start the Allen bolt and tighten it up. Now we're going to go back underneath and plug in the electrical connector. So we'll just feed it up into position like this, and then we'll reach around back with our fingers, and also on the opposite side you can grab the wire and help guide it on and push it on. Then you're going to remount the little plastic clip that mounted into the subframe here. After that, we're going to re-secure the top engine cover. So you're going to lower the vehicle back down, line everything up, and then you're going to take your flat blade screwdriver and turn the tabs clockwise a quarter turn, and then press the rubber grommets in, and that'll complete the job of replacing the front engine mount on a 2005 through 2010 Honda Odyssey. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos, encourage you to subscribe, invite you to head over to the howtoautomotive.com website for more valuable videos like this, and also to remind you that I will be linking up all the parts and tools that I use in this video in the description. That way, if you need to pick any of that up, you can find it there. Thank you again for watching.